Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror
Corner. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Gershon, and this week we are counting down the top 10 horror films of 1981.
What's up, guys? Yes, we are counting down the top 10 horror films from 1981. Shout out to Full Moon 1973, who started it with his top 5 of 1980. So I'm continuing in that trend. Although I couldn't narrow it down when you got a year so big as 1981, I couldn't narrow it down to just 5. So here we are doing the top 10, and I still got a couple honorable mentions. A lot of people might be shocked this one didn't make the list, but that's how stiff the competition is for this year. The Burning from 1981. Definitely a classic slasher film with awesome gore effects by the legendary Tom Savini. That great summer camp setting. And you got a great slasher killer in Cropsey. Next honorable mention will be Hell Night with the legendary Linda Blair. In this really atmospheric slasher film. It's a whole lot of fun. Next we got Just Before Dawn, which I only came around to watching very recently, and yeah, I really enjoy it, and I get what the fuss is about this film. Yeah, it's got great atmosphere, fantastic cinematography for kind of a low-budget slasher, but it even has Blondie in there. Alright, let's get to the top 10, folks. And in at number 10 is Happy Birthday to Me. A really cool slasher starring Melissa Sue Anderson from Little House on the Prairie, believe it or not. Yeah, such a fun slasher, and it's got a great plot to it, too, you know, a lot more complicated than you would expect from a slasher film, you know. And there's some very, very memorable kills in here. Next up is one that I find doesn't get too much love, but for me, I hold this in high regard, and that is The Prowler. I love this film. This is just classic slasher 101, in my opinion. What an awesome look for the slasher killer, too, and the army fatigues, and the helmet, and with the pitchfork and everything. I always think it's funny that his weapon of choice is a pitchfork when he's like an army veteran or whatever. Like, and he's got this ridiculously huge knife. This has some of the best gore effects from Tom Savini right here. Awesome kills. Next up we have The House by the Cemetery from Lucio Fulci, the gore maestro from Italy. And this is absolutely one of his best films. You want to talk gothic atmosphere? This movie is like a mashup of a few different genres. You got the haunted house movie in here, you got the slasher, you got the zombie film. It's all in here, and it's got amazing gore effects. This movie is awesome. Next up, of course, you have to have My Bloody Valentine. This is just a perfect slasher movie. It's a great holiday-themed slasher film. Yes, it kind of took that, of course, from Halloween and Black Christmas, but, you know, it continues that trend of holiday-themed slashers, and you had Friday the 13th, of course, and, but this is a perfect movie to watch with your date on Valentine's Day, huh? Next up, we have... There were two great werewolf movies made in 1981. The two best ever, in my opinion. And This one here is American Werewolf in London, directed by John Landis. What an amazing film. I probably would go as far as to say this is a comedy horror. Because there's a lot of comedy in here, there's a lot of humor. But there's plenty of horror as well, and you got amazing gore effects, and you got the single greatest transformation film in horror, of the greatest werewolf transformation of all time. I can't deny that. And I don't think anybody can, really. It's absolutely amazing. This movie holds up so well today. It's just a fantastic film. Next up, for the second time on this list, we have another Lucio Fulci classic. Yes, The Beyond. And for my money, this is his best made film, his most creative work of art. And when you get someone like Lucio Fulci being creative, you're going to get an absolute nightmare on film. And that's exactly what this movie is, The Beyond. If you have not seen this film, you have to see it. If you love Italian horror, this is as good as it gets. And of course, we have The Evil Dead, the one that started it all. Sam Raimi's horror classic, Evil Dead, which made a star out of Bruce Campbell in the infamous role of Ash Williams, or Ashley Williams as he was in this one. Just a classic. I mean, it's just absolutely groundbreaking. Sam Raimi's direction. There was never anything like it before, the way he uses the camera work in this film, you know, with the Evil Dead entity going through the woods and the awesome cinematography. It's just zany, it's crazy, it's nuts. And I like the fact that this is the most serious one in the Evil Dead franchise. So yeah, this one actually is scary. There's some good, like, jump scares in here.
Join us.
I had to. Next up we have the amazing Friday the 13th Part 2. There were 2 phenomenal sequels made in 1981. And the first one on this list is Friday the 13th Part 2, which I feel is easily the best sequel in the franchise. But obviously that's just my opinion. But I think this movie is just amazing. It ups the ante in every way. A lot more thrills and chills and more action in this film. More over-the-top violence and crazy chase scenes. And you got the best final girl in the franchise and one of the best final girls of all time. And that is Amy Steele as Ginny, of course. And you have, for the first time, Jason Voorhees as the killer. And in at number 2 is my favorite werewolf film of all time. And that is The Howling. Absolutely love this movie. Directed by Joe Dante and starring the great Dee Wallace. It's just amazing.
Oh, you free duck. She's ours now.
I absolutely love this movie. Filled with amazing werewolf transformations, and it's great creature effects. This is what a werewolf should look like to me. An absolute monster. A half man, half wolf creature. And it's awesome. I love it. Love the effects in this movie. It's got some incredible atmosphere. So creepy. And this is the more serious of the two when it comes to this one, An American Werewolf in London, in my opinion. This is a more straight-up horror film. There's certainly humor in this film. There's definitely a lot of callbacks to old classic horror, you know, with some of the names of some of the characters and things like that. A lot of in-jokes and stuff. But to me, it's pretty much a straightforward horror film, and I love it. I love all the characters in this movie are great and so memorable. I love the concept. I love the premise, and it's just a phenomenal werewolf movie. It's my favorite of all time. And in at number 1 will probably be a surprise to nobody, and that is Halloween 2, my favorite horror sequel of all time. I absolutely love this movie, and you guys know that. I worship this movie. I don't need to say too much more about it other than it's phenomenal. It's everything you could want in a horror sequel for me. You got the returning cast, you got amazing direction, you got amazing cinematography. It's still just as scary as the original. You got amazing Michael Myers and Dick Warlock. You still had John Carpenter and Deborah Hill very much involved. And it adds something new to the story. And I absolutely love it. So Halloween 2 in at number 1 on the top 10 horror films of 1981. And
thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Gershon, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared.
Folks, don't forget to grab your Sean Patrick Gershon gear and represent the Horror Corner. Also, check out these awesome mugs we have, perfect for your coffee. And definitely check out the Horror Hangout live stream t-shirt and represent the legacy of the Horror Hangout. Check out the link in the description below this video.